Welcome to Chymick Gaming. I'm your host, Chymick, and I'm excited to cast off again into the vast ocean of lore surrounding the Legend of Zelda. This time, we will be following a course plotted during my last deep dive video, which is linked below. If you missed that video, or skipped it because of the boring title and thumbnail, I wandered far off course during the dive, far away from the initial pumpkin theme, and into the murky waters around Tears of the Kingdom, and the fate of a Gerudo king betrayed long ago. That king and his dark fate are the starting point of this deep dive, and we'll be traveling some familiar seas in order to reach him. So let's wake the King of Red Lions, unfurl the sailcloth, and once again set course for the place where Studio Ghibli meets the Legend of Zelda. This will be a Tears of the Kingdom theory, eventually. Warning up front, if you are not familiar with Studio Ghibli movies, and specifically the movie Princess Mononoke, you may want to save this dive for another day. For everyone else, all aboard. The connection between many of the dominant visual elements in Breath of the Wild and Studio Ghibli animation have been well established for some time. The Reddit and YouTube communities have covered this topic at length, both at the time of the game's release, as well as just recently as Tears of the Kingdom promotion started to ramp up. That said, even though we will be bearing down on the Studio Ghibli Princess Mononoke movie, we will be steering around a few of the more obvious narrative parallels that have been covered already, like the similarities between the ancient Sheikah and the Amishi clans, and the curse placed on the young hero's right arm. I know, this one's very tempting to pursue, but it's too obvious. When it comes to theories, I like the weird ones that tickle my brain. We will also be sailing past the rivalry between the two princess characters, Lydia Boshi and Wolf-Girl San, even though I really could spend an unreasonable amount of time comparing those two characters to Zelda and Midna. No, we are firmly on course to explore what the Lord of the Mountain can reveal to us about the next chapter of the legend. No, not that Lord of the Mountain. The one from Breath of the Wild is a visual parallel to the Great Forest Spirit in the movie. That one also is too obvious. No, I want to explore the implications of the Lord of the Mountain from Princess Mononoke. You remember the Lord of the Mountain, right? That was Nago's title among the Boar clan. Nago is the great boar who is corrupted by a kind of fear and hatred that turns him into a demon. He is the creature that curses Prince Ashitaka at the beginning of the Ghibli film and sets the whole story in motion. It's not hard to see the visual and narrative parallels between the demonic sickness found in Princess Mononoke and the physical malice in Breath of the Wild. Nago's curse, uttered with his dying breath at the beginning of the movie, even sounds eerily similar to the curse uttered by the Demon King Demise at the end of Skyward Sword. I have the strange impression that all of Breath of the Wild's story only covers about the first 15 minutes of Studio Ghibli's 2-hour feature film, especially since the demon boar defeated with an arrow shot to the head lines up exactly the same way in both battles, at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the game. The curse on the protagonist follows soon after with the dying breath of the demon beast. While I could go on from this point and speculate how the rest of the story from Princess Mononoke might play out in Tears of the Kingdom, I think that would be a bit unfair to the newest entry in the legend. The Zelda team is clearly inspired by a huge repository of art and history from around the world, but their own work is not truly a derivation of anything in that repository. Instead, let's return our attention specifically to Nago, the giant boar, and the Lord of the Mountain. I believe he serves as an inspiration for how Ganondorf as a Gerudo king may have been reimagined. While the theme of a demonic boar could be dismissed as a coincidence, we aren't going to do that, because that would be too easy and too convenient. The use of a boar may feel a little too on the nose for some fans, but I think it makes just as much sense to see that they share a commonly understood cultural meaning, a combination of natural power and innate recklessness. Ultimately, the boar is a great visual symbol and creates a great narrative parallel between the two works of art. And before we get into an argument about publication dates, yes, the Legend of Zelda games used a boar monster for Ganon long before the Princess Mononoke movie was ever released. However, the Zelda team is always deepening the lore of the legend. It's not really a stretch to say that certain elements, such as the symbol of the boar, may have been redefined somewhat over the past 40 years and thousands of hours of storytelling. Those sort of artistic refinements come from new inspirations, and one of those new inspirations has clearly been the brilliant work of Studio Ghibli. Regardless, the most important detail about Nago from Princess Mononoke is not that he is a giant boar corrupted by demonic power. The most important detail comes from when the other characters who knew Nago speak about him later in the film, after his death. He was incredibly powerful, but very stubborn and reckless.
Nago was beautiful and strong.
Yes, I was getting to that. He was also quite beautiful and respected by his clan. More important than his handsome features, Nago was born and lived in an uncorrupted state at some point in time before the conflict that poisoned him with fear and hatred. Nago was not always a demon. From the descriptions given by other characters, Nago was once the proud leader of his clan, whose conflict with humans and their technology led to his downfall. Just like a certain Gerudo king, who was once the proud leader of his clan, and may have been in conflict with the ancient Sheikah and their technology, leading to his downfall. But even more to the point, if we can see the narrative parallels between these two characters as they play out in both stories, then we can start to see where the rest of this dive gets interesting. Grab your dragon scale, let's hit the water and head down. If we consider the demonic power that overtakes Nago as a parallel to the physical malice that has corrupted Ganondorf, then who was Ganondorf before he was corrupted? If The Legend of Zelda is truly a story of reincarnation, as stated in the Hyrule Historia, then we know whoever became the mortal vessel of malice may have existed prior to the curse of eternal hatred uttered by the Demon King Demise. That soul is reincarnating throughout the ages as well, but ever since the end of Skyward Sword, that soul has carried this curse into each new generation, like the carrier of a disease infecting the rest of the population. However, the question still remains, who was this individual before the curse of demise and the corruption of malice? Perhaps it was a character with one or two personal flaws that made him more susceptible to the Demon King's influence. Someone who was overly proud, with a strong sense of personal vanity, and a healthy dash of recklessness. It would be especially petty and vicious if the Demon King chose someone close to Zelda and Link, someone that they would never remember across their countless lifetimes, but someone whose hatred would wound them more deeply than that of a random stranger. So, someone like Groose. Red hair, golden eyes, muscular build, rides a mount whose markings are colored in red and black, is a natural leader, and a natural choice for someone who wishes to take revenge against those early incarnations of Zelda and Link. Groose was their friend, not without his flaws, but still a good friend. With a dash of dark power and demonic influence, he would make the perfect adversary, because even without knowing it, the battle would always be personal. That would also make their repeated battles a kind of self-harm, in which Zelda and Link are forced to destroy their former friend over and over again, who himself is bent on destroying them. Demise need only sit back and watch as those who once joined together to defeat him now compete against one another for the Triforce and defeat themselves. All the while, hatred and fear grow stronger between each lifetime in the reincarnation cycle, restoring the life and power of the once defeated Demon King. The plan is truly excellent and diabolical, but excellent nonetheless. Demise has ensured that the cycle of his hatred will continue eternally by ensuring that the heroes are fighting the wrong battle in their attempt to stop him. Those three individuals, who possess one of the three aspects of the Triforce, can never unite that sacred power against the Demon King as long as they are fighting amongst themselves over who will wield that power. Even should one of them obtain the whole Triforce for themselves, they will simply turn that power toward defeating the more obvious perceived threat, rather than the actual threat which has remained hidden. This means that every time that Ganon has been defeated, the heroes have actually lost. Demise has been winning ever since Ocarina of Time, possibly even longer than that. And the heroes of the legend continue to lose because, as the movie Princess Mononoke shows us, it's not the vessel for demonic power that needs to be vanquished. If anything, that only serves to spread the curse. Like Pandora's box, once the vessel is gone, that which was contained within is free to spread across the world. The demonic power itself must be defeated. Fear must be subdued. Hatred must be resisted and overcome. The curse must be purged, and the vessel must be purified. Ganon must be purified of malice. His soul must be restored and returned to its rightful place in the reincarnation cycle. Whoever he was before the Curse of Demise is just as trapped as Link in Zelda, and I'm sticking by Groose as the most likely candidate. Even ignoring his character flaws and his visual similarities, Groose was the only other character to raise a hand against and have a part in defeating Demise in Skyward Sword, the same conflict that led to the demonic curse being uttered in the first place. Zelda is the mortal incarnation of the goddess Hylia, and was the first to defeat the demon Demise and then seal him in his imprisoned form. Link destroys the imprisoned with the power of the Triforce, then also travels to the past and from there into the sacred realm beyond time, and defeats the fully restored Demon King with the Master Sword. The goddess and her chosen champion make obvious targets for the curse. But do you remember the second and third fight against the imprisoned form of Demise? Do you remember the Groosinator? For those brief moments, the player is not controlling Link. We're playing as Groose. As Groose, we're taking aim with a cannon loaded with gigantic bombs. Bombs aimed to blow off the fingers and toes of the imprisoned, to blast him out of the sky when he tries to fly away from the fight and toward his goal, to drop his demon butt hundreds of feet back into the pit out of which he had just crawled, which puts the imprisoned form of Demise back to having his fingers and toes blasted off again by Groose, all while Link works to reset the ceiling spike on the head of the imprisoned. The only other mortal to harm the imprisoned Demise, the only other being to directly challenge him and prevent his dominion over the world, the only other person to humiliate the great Demon King, was this guy, my man with the plan, and a most excellent pompadour, none other than Groose. Let's think about that for a moment. What special hell would the Demon King conjure for such an individual? Could there be a better torment for that poor soul than to be doomed for all eternity to unwittingly serve Demise, to be a vessel for his malice, and to repeatedly fight and die at the hands of his former friends? The mortal vessel of malice, Ganondorf, Ganon, possibly at one point in time Groose, is still a mortal being. He is still someone without the presence of malice and the influence of Demise. And never once, in any game, have we saved him. Never once have we freed him from his cursed power. Instead, the hero has always seen this other character as the evil one. He is falsely perceived as the source of what ails the world rather than another symptom of the disease. Rather than be cured, he is destroyed, as if removing a single symptom will somehow cure a cancer. Since our remaining two original heroes, Link and Zelda, rarely if ever remember the details of their former lives, they're doomed to repeat this mistake, and will inevitably destroy the third hero of that first confrontation, and thereby prevent themselves from ever truly achieving the goal of destroying the Demon King. Every time Ganon is defeated, Demise wins. If our two heroes would instead save this third hero, and free him of Demise's influence, I'd say the three of them would stand a really good chance of soundly defeating the Demon King, and either sealing or destroying him permanently. Those three heroes typically possess one of the three aspects of the Triforce, which is said to be able to permanently destroy the Demon King when united for that purpose. Uniting Zelda, armed with the Triforce of Wisdom and her sacred bow, Link with the Triforce of Courage and his Master Sword, and Ganondorf with the Triforce of Power and his ancient sorcery, sounds like the perfect recipe for the true final showdown against the Demon King, which is why Demise has ensured that such an event will never occur, while simultaneously getting his revenge for his previous defeat. The only way to prevent this tragedy from repeating would be to start with the knowledge that it's actually a tragedy worth preventing. And the only people who could possibly know this are the only people with a recorded history that goes back to the days of Skyward Sword, or have been known to travel through time. So that would be, yep, the Sheikah, on both counts. Every time I consider their agency in the legend, the hints and clues of their clan's actions across each age of Hyrule, they appear as the primary suspects for why things didn't go the way they should. They are meddlesome at their best, and duplicitous at their worst. As we look ahead to Tears of the Kingdom, we should remember that Impa was once the Sage of Shadow in Ocarina of Time. In Breath of the Wild, she is the only incarnation of the 7 sages present, and she is strangely secretive, only offering information about the previous Calamity battles or the one to come. Nothing more. I suspect as the story unfolds for Tears of the Kingdom, Impa will have some difficult explaining to do, and we may even learn which of the countless tragedies caused by the ancient Sheikah led to the iconic tear becoming part of their clan's symbol. Sheikah tears have been present within the kingdom for a very long time. If Princess Mononoke is any indication, I'm going all in on deicide. That is, the Sheikah are responsible for the death of a god. That sounds like a secret worth keeping for 10,000 years, and provides ample motivation for much of their technological ambitions throughout the ages, most of which seems intent on rivaling or duplicating the powers of a god, such as a complete compendium of material knowledge, teleportation, telepathic transmission, creating divine artifacts and weapons, a mastery of mana for both defense and offensive purposes, resurrection, and possibly some limited ability to travel through time. The only question that remains is, which of the gods did they kill? Of course, Hylia would be the most tragic choice, as the Sheikah clan was created by the goddess to guide and protect her mortal incarnation. After all, it is the goddess Hylia's own divine powers that the Sheikah are mostly attempting to replicate. But honestly, it could just as easily be one of the 3 golden goddesses. In which case, I'm going with Nehru, if for no other reason than power and courage seem to be in abundance across Hyrule, but wisdom seems to be in very short supply. Let me know which one of the gods you think the ancient Sheikah might have killed in the comments below, along with any reason you might have for your choice, even if it's just a feeling. And let me know what you think of the theory. I'm sure a few of you out there have something to offer in defense of the Sheikah's actions. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm just going to sit on the bottom here for a while and think it over. You head on back up to the surface when you're ready. If you enjoyed watching this video, poke that like button, and consider subscribing to the channel to be notified of the next deep dives when they splash. And as always, thank you for watching.